Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Book and Bean podcast. My name is Majesta Dawn. I'll be your host. I'm the author of Supernatural Supermom, which is being released on June 10th. And today with me, I have a new author, Richard Alexander, who's working on his first book. Hi, Richard.
Majesta.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Not a problem. It's my pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, Richard, as many of the authors that I've interviewed on this podcast, we met on TikTok, right?
Yep.
Or on the book talk side of things, which just a great community. So
It really is.
it is. It's so nice to be able to connect. And I actually just was watching a TikTok that said, we are in a unique position as authors because in so many fields, right? Like if you're a real estate agent, if you're a car salesman, all these different things, you have competitors, right?
Absolutely.
If I'm a real estate agent and you're a real estate agent, then we're competing against each other for business. But if I'm an author and you're an author, we can still support each other because
Absolutely. And,
yeah.
and that's one of the things I love about the community.
Mhm.
Like, there's so much support out there for aspiring authors, established authors, and everywhere in between.
Yes, it's so true. And even if I wrote all day long every day, I could never produce enough books to even keep one reader busy.
Absolutely.
And the same goes for you and all authors. So let's connect with other authors and support each other and share their work, right?
Yep. Absolutely. I think one of my favorite hashtags that I found on Twitter, and it's writers lift, and it's just authors lifting up other authors.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful and such a simple concept.
Yes, it is. I love it. The hashtag's writers lift.
Yes.
That I may have to start using that.
and I've been using it on TikTok, and it's probably still in its baby phases there, but I think it's growing.
Well, I'm going to start adding that to my hashtags, always looking for good hashtags. It's kind of one of those challenges, like where you're always looking for the next trending sound, right?
Absolutely.
And that kind of something we started to talk about before we started recording is I was asking you, what's the best place that I can let people know to follow you, to stay up to date? And you have a link tree, like I think a lot of us do. I do too. We were kind of joking about keeping it updated. Sometimes it's a full-time job just getting the marketing side of things done, right?
It is. It really is. And it's one thing I'm absolutely horrible about. Like, ask me to write 70,000 words. Great. Sure, no problem. Ask me to talk about myself. I clam up like a
It's so true. Like, and even my day job, I'm in sales. Like that's what I've done my whole career is sales and marketing and like facilitating sales trainings and getting in front of people and no problem. Ask me to sell my book or write a blurb for my book. And I'm like, editor, please or publisher, can you help me write this? Because I can't do it. Like I can sell.
True. It really is. I've said a few times on various comments on TikTok, write 70,000 words, no problem. Give me 3 months. Write 250. I'm going to need about 3 years.
That's so true. So, Richard, tell us about your book right now. I know it's in its beta stages. You're working on rewrites and everything, but your book is called Ashes to Ashes.
It is.
I know we just talked about how much like how hard writing a blurb is, but give us the blurb, okay?
So Ashes to Ashes is a private eye detective novel-esque story. It follows the protagonist, Damian Hayes, as he tries to hunt down his father's killer from 20 years previously, which he happened to see happen. And now when the story picks up 20 years later, it's bringing back all of these emotions for him. It's surreal. He had pretty much lost hope that he would ever find the killer. I mean, it had been a cold case for 20 years. Everyone had given up. I mean, for a while there, he was suspected to have been the killer because he's the only one that witnessed it. He was the only one around. It was just him and his father on the farm. So I said 20 years later, 20 years go by, and all of a sudden a body drops with the same MO, the same everything that his father was, and he's thrown into this mode of, this is it, I gotta find him, I know it, this is it. And it leads him through a chase of several more victims, and well, I don't want to give away the ending, but it's a story I think I found my passion in.
Awesome. And I noticed you said you've been referring to the genre as dark modern fantasy. You know, what made you want to start to write in that genre?
So it kind of started out as just your average horror thriller detective story. And then as I got into it, it was like, all right, how can I spice this up? And I've always been a fan of fantasy. I mean, I started on Tolkien, like I'm sure many of us did. And I moved on to Robert Jordan later in life. And I was just blown away by how beautiful his writing was. And I think he's actually what inspired me to start writing in the first place. Even though it didn't go very far at first. And so that there's always been that side of things that has enticed me. I've always, like, I play D&D and various other games like that. I've computer games, console games, tabletop, you name it. I'm probably doing it instead of writing. But and then so it's like, all right, but I want it set in the modern. I don't want to go back and rewrite what's already been done.
Right.
So I wanted to bring a new, or new-ish, I guess, a perspective to the genre. So I kind of, and I've been told it's a fairly realistic look at how magic works, or according to the Wiccan community, anyways. So that was a nice review,
Yes.
as small as it was, and I think people will really like it.
So what kind of research did you have to do? Or was this as especially incorporating like witchcraft and things like that, and which I've incorporated into my book as well. Maggie's a witch, a little bit more cartoonish or fictional than realistic, but I tried to incorporate some traditional elements or some spells or like cleansing that Wiccans or pagans would do. I tried to keep it accurate. What type of research did you have to do, or is this stuff just because of what you're passionate about, the games you played? Did you kind of books you read, you knew it off the top of your head?
Growing up, I was, my parents are uber religious folk, and to the point it put me off of mainstream religion. And I probably nowadays I probably consider myself closer to an atheist than anything, but I still call myself spiritual because I'm still not quite sure of what's out there. But in my early rebellious phase, I did did consider myself Wiccan. So there's a lot of that pre-researched material somewhere in the back of my head.
Yep. I think we always bring a lot of our right. You write what you know, right? Like they say that
Absolutely.
all the time. And in the same kind of, I live in a small West Virginia town, so I understand like the uber religion conservatism, and I wear necklaces, crystals, right? So my character faces a lot of judgment just for being a witch in the small Christian community.
Absolutely.
Even though she herself is like, Jesus is cool. Jesus is fine with magic, right? Like he doesn't have a problem with what I do. You guys do.
and that's one of the things I starting out the story, Damien is a devout Catholic. So
Mhm.
once he discovers magic, it really goes against his core, but at the same time, it's familiar.
Mhm. No, I don't know if we want to get into that religious debate, but it's interesting to me how Catholicism it's like it immediately makes me think of The Exorcist, right?
Mhm.
Like but it's tied into a lot of those horror type. Like if we're going to have a religious background in it, it tends to be Catholicism, and maybe it's
Mhm.
because of the strictness, maybe it's the rituals that blend so
I think
beautifully.
a lot of it is that even those of us that aren't familiar with Catholicism, it's more familiar than your other denominations of Christianity.
That makes
That
sense. Everybody's heard of it at least.
it's what you hear, it's what you think of. The Pope's Catholic, and he's supposed to be the one all be all of authority on the matter.
Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense. So now I know right now your book is in its beta stage,
mhm.
and we were kind of talking about what are your plans? You know, do you have a publisher? We started talking about this before we were recording. So share with everyone. Have you decided what route you're going to go as far as getting Ashes to Ashes out there?
I go back and forth, honestly. Like I initially started out thinking I wanted to go completely indie, and then I thought about it, I was like, well, I don't want to do all the hassle of all the marketing and all of that, but I don't want to lose a lot of the uh, royalties that I would earn as an independent author. So it's not an easy path either way, and
Mhm.
I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah. It's a tough decision to make. There's more opportunities, more ways to get your book and your work out there now than ever before. I know I interviewed an author yesterday who's using apps to publish her book, because there's all these apps now where
Mhm.
you can access books, and she discovered them during the pandemic when she needed things to read. So she's like, well, this is where I'm going to upload to. I kind of did the same thing. Like I never thought I was going to publish my book. And then a publisher was calling for paranormal women's fiction. And I'm like, hey, that's kind of what I started writing. Um, then signed my contract, lost my contract because I wouldn't put smut in it. And then but by that point, when your heart's set on being published, it's like, okay, do I want to do this indie thing? And it was overwhelming for me. I lucked out. I found Reflective Line Publishing, but there are so many authors now. It used to be independent publishing was vanity publishing, right?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, oh, you published your book. It didn't really get published, is how people used to look at it. And that's changing now. Like some of our most successful authors are coming from this indie publishing. And it's like, no, not only did I publish my book, but I'm also my business manager, my publicist, my, formatter, editor, marketer, right?
Yeah, and that's something else we have to. I feel like we have to avoid is the vanity publishers. Like they're just out there to make a buck. They're not they don't care whether you succeed or not because you're paying them to put it out there. And I think it's just taking advantage of small artists that are just trying to get their work out there, trying to become something in the industry.
They're almost like vultures, I'm
They
sure.
are. They are.
Yeah. Have you had the crazy phone calls? Like, how did you get my phone number? Like, how are you calling me and know that I have a
I,
book?
I, I don't answer numbers I don't know.
Don't, because if you put any information in anywhere, like, what's this publishing company? If
Hmm.
it's not like, if you don't recognize it up front, they're just collecting your information to call you to try to pitch you. I actually,
Absolutely.
speaking of book talk, it was it yesterday evening. I found someone who was just in tears on TikTok because she almost lost $5,000 to a vanity publisher. They wanted her to pay $5,000. I sent her to my publisher because her content is in line with what, and I think that they're going to be working out a contract. My publisher's already reviewed her exam or her sample.
Mhm.
So, but almost lost $5,000. And how many people in our community do you know? I know I've seen tons that have fallen prey to that.
I know I couldn't afford to lose 5 grand.
Mm-mm.
It's crazy. It's out there. And I approached a couple, even before I knew what a vanity publisher was.
Mhm.
I sent out my pre-query request, requesting information on the publisher, and they all got back to me. And luckily, I found uh, I can't remember what exactly she does, but I belong to a Discord writers group, and which has been an amazing help as well. And I brought it up to her, as she's a professional in the industry and works for a traditional publisher and whatnot. And she looked into them. She's like, these are all vanity publishers. Avoid them. And it's
Mm.
like, thank you.
Yeah.
That's maybe the best advice I've gotten
Yeah.
since starting.
Discord's another one of those things. I mean, in my day job, we use Discord to communicate and chat internally, and but there's more and more Discord groups for authors out there. I think it goes right back to what we were talking about TikTok and book talk of the community. I mean, uh, with authors coming together, having the internet, having these forums that we can meet and discuss and share, like, hey, these are vanity publishers, avoid them. It is making it easier for us to publish ourselves. We're out there helping each other and sharing the tips instead of fighting against each other, right?
Absolutely. And again, it's one of the things I absolutely love about the community I've found on TikTok. I may be small still, but I'm growing faster than I ever thought I would ever. I mean, since I
Mhm,
really started interacting with Book Talk. Uh,
mhm.
I've started adding every author I've come across, and it's grown my account significantly. There was a time when all my followers were bots. It's
Yes.
like, I don't want to delete you because I don't have anyone else, but I don't really want to keep the bots either.
And I need to get to 1,000 so I can go live, damn it, right? Like, stay with me, bots,
Like,
just long enough.
I just want to get to 1,000 so I can post my link in my bio.
Oh, I didn't even realize that you couldn't post your link until you had 1,000. My guilty confession time, my 13-year-old or almost 13-year-old has been my TikTok helper. Like, she's my TikTok tutor. She's had to teach me how to do all these things. But you're right. I started a fresh TikTok account um when I found out that I was going to be published on my book.
Mhm.
And I it's amazing how when you are interacting, when you're genuine, when you're not just out there trying to sell something, right? When you're posting fun stuff, when you're supporting other people, how quickly you can gain some
It
followers.
is. It's such an open and welcoming community. And I've never found one like it, honestly. Like
Yep.
I've been on TikTok for a couple of years on my main account,
Mhm.
and I've never grown. I don't think I ever broke 150 over there, and I think I hit 230 this morning.
Yeah.
Uh, and so it's like you're kind of regular TikTok. You're kind of there as an observer, unless you're one of the big creators.
Right.
On Book Talk, everyone interacts with everything.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah, when I put up the TikTok about want to be on a podcast, like I've started a podcast, I got to the point where I'm like, okay, guys, please email me because my inbox is so full and I want to respond to all of you, but I'm losing track. If I don't respond to you, it's not on purpose. So bug me. For those of you that are watching this, if I've not responded to you, I would love to speak with you. Just bug me. I probably just lost your message.
And it happened. It really does. I think I had to scroll back. I don't know how far just to message you this morning. Like, what's the Zoom link?
Yeah. That's why I'm like starting to send everybody to the email now because I can at least search, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Well, what was the writing process for you with like with Ashes to Ashes? Are you a plotter or are you a pantser?
Um, from what I understand of the difference of the two, I think I'm a pantser. Uh, like I have an
Cheers.
outline. I have an outline for the series, which this is book one of what I plan to be a 6-book series. So I have a little bit of an outline for the entire series, and then the book has been by the seat of my pants. Like it took me 3 months to write it. I started October 1st, finished right around January 1st.
Mhm.
So it was, minus updates and edits and all that fun stuff. So it's I'm not sure I could do a full outline of this, do a full outline of this, and it's overwhelming to me.
Me too. I get stuck in my head. I feel like I'm being, instead of just letting the characters and the story unfold the way it needs to, I'm trying to force it when I've tried to plot it. The only thing that I'll do as far as planning, really, I mean, I do have a general idea of where I want the story to go. Like I'll know like the main plot points. The only thing that I'll really write down beforehand, though, my husband thinks I'm crazy for this because he's like, you need an outline. He's very technical, so he has to
Mhm.
plan and plot everything. And I'm like, I can't. The only thing I jot down is if I'm like just sitting there or in the shower folding laundry and I get a funny dialogue in my head of like this character says this funny line or this person says this and they have this conversation, I'll jot down the one liners that like crack myself up so I don't forget them and then just try to work them into the story wherever they fit. Other than that, if I had to sit there and plot it out, I don't think that I would ever start writing.
And I have my sheets full of, like, I have a sheet full of character info. um and and and, and one of the things I'm doing with this is I'm not sure I've ever seen it done anywhere else, is there are multiple points of view in my book, and I don't want to ruin anything specifically, but each point of view has a different formatting style. So it'll
Mm,
be, I think they're all Times New Roman. They're all size 12 font, uh, but it'll switch from uh, first person point of view to person point of view, uh, standard formatting to alternate formatting, depending on the
the
POV.
Nice. That's very interesting. So like you visually get to see
The
that you're
change.
in a different, that's excellent. I love that. That's a really good way to point out like to make them even more aware we're in a different, this is different now, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think once they understand why it's happening, it'll make so much more sense as to why I did it.
That makes sense. And to get that information to find out why it's happening, you all are gonna have to read Ashes to Ashes. Hopefully to be
It
coming out soon. Do we have any idea on when a release date will
um,
be?
I'm still waiting on responses from beta readers, and I'm always looking for more. Uh, Honestly, I don't have that many, and most of them are friends and family at this point. But I'm going through rewrites even before I have responses from them. And I'm hoping by the end of the year I'll have something that I can push.
Mhm. So would that be the most helpful thing then for everyone in the community or who sees this podcast is if I post your link tree, is there ways there they can reach out to you to possibly be a beta reader for you?
Yep, my email is in my TikTok. It should also be in my link tree, uh, and they can contact me there.
Excellent. So everyone, I am going to post on the bottom. If you look in the description of this podcast video, you will see the link tree to reach out and see if you can, and yes, sign up for the email list is right on there. I'm in your link tree now to become a beta reader for Richard Alexander and Ashes to Ashes. Richard, thank you so much for being a guest with us today.
Not a problem. It was my pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone. And as always, stay reading.